Start recording.
Yeah, you want to hit the start recording button. Maybe
I
that's
will do that when we get started in some seconds. 15 seconds. You want to count it down because we have nothing else to say to each other?
I don't know. Tara hasn't said anything, so.
Is Tara alive? Oh, Tara's not on audio.
Oh!
We can't hear Tara. Tara is muted.
Wah, wah, wah.
Come on, Kaiser, get it together.
She replicated herself too much, too far,
She
and now
did.
she can't speak.
Too much. She's being blocked by a replication command. Try turning it off and turning it on again. She's muttering curses at me under her breath.
Send in your questions. We need your questions.
We
Send
need
in your
so many
questions.
questions.
Tara's waiting. Oh, we chased her.
She's gone. Maybe she'll come back.
We chased her like an Indians reliever. Good job. Whoa!
If you ended that sentence early, we all would have been in trouble. What's that?
It's a massage ball, actually.
Oh, yeah. You were telling me about those.
Yeah, so it's got different densities of foam alongside of it. And so what you do, you just shove this up against the wall and you're back on it, and kind of whatever is messing with you, it kind of loosens it up a bit. So I've been having problems with my back shoulder, oddly enough, where I hold the mouse.
Yeah.
So this really has loosened it up a bunch.
Cool. I have a foam roller.
I have one of those too.
I'm a big fan of that. And I also recently had to get a pad for my desk because my elbow sits on it. It's an L-shaped desk. So I was finding that my elbow was like hanging on this, and like when it would just like sit on the wood, it would just make this awful grinding noise. And like my fingers would twitch when I hit my elbow in the wrong way. It's like the funny bone effect. So I got me an elbow pad, and now things are good. Can feel my hands again and everything.
Crunch. All right, it's 12:17. We'll
all right.
Let's start. We're running a bit late. That's all right.
Tara will show up. I was trying to wait for Tara to come back, but since she's taking her time, blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. All right. Let's start with some questions. We have one from fellow human asking if there is a way to add an additional node used for read-only access to a SQL Server 2008 cluster. No sir, no how, no way, unless you log ship to another node. Well, that wouldn't be really a cluster node. That would be a separate server. You could log ship or use mirroring and take snapshots of the mirror. That is the only way to do that, really, in 2008 R2. You need availability groups or one of those things, or replication or something else. But it wouldn't really make sense to replicate to another node in the cluster. So, no. Short answer. Long answer, you would need a separate server with some different technology in the middle. Fellow human asks, SP MS add REPL commands is blocking heavily in the distributor. Cool. Good to know. I'll alert the media. Tara's not on yet. I think her answer might be to either make sure you have read committed snapshot isolation turned on, and then if you already have that, then you might want to just kill and restart it. I do not know much more about replication than that. Let's move on and ask a question that I have a good answer to. There's one about backups. If I take a log backup while a full backup is running, and another log backup after the full backup finishes, how would I restore the database with all log backup files? Geez, that is such a simple thing to test, right? Take a full backup, take a couple log backups. So the answer is log backups taken during full backups don't truncate the log file. They have to wait for the full backup to finish before that happens. So you would just need the full backup and the log backup file taken immediately after the full backup. The one taken during the full backup doesn't really have much in it. Another question. This time, I used Crystal Disk Mark to determine the speed of the disks between servers, including one we just purchased. They asked the Sandtech why the speed from our drive was 6 times faster than the currently purchased drive. Oh boy. I don't know. You're in a particularly weird situation. I don't know if Crystal Disk Mark is giving you false data. Uh, you could try a utility called disk speed. See if you get any different results from that. I don't know what kind of SAN you're using or where they got that information from, so it will be hard for me to comment on it. I have another question here from Tammy that I don't have an answer to. I'm looking for a way to differentiate SQL users without logins versus orphaned SQL users. Don't know. Never had to do that, couldn't tell you. In SQL
users using T-SQL, are those users that are in the database but not attached to the server? Is that what
something like that? Yeah.
I used to have a script way back when, Galaxy Far, Far Away, that kind of identified those and deleted them.
Oh.
I don't think I've got them. Because that typically happens, right, when you move from, when you do a backup and restore from one database to another.
Right. You know what? That jogs something in my mind. Microsoft. Is that what it is?
Is that what we're talking about, Tammy?
Perhaps. Let me do a little dig here.
To the cloud.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a Microsoft Store procedure that maybe the code in there can lead you in the right direction. It's called sp_help_rev login. I'll stick the link to it in chat for everyone if they want it. Oh, come on now.
If you could figure out how to paste things from the
Control V is hard. That's the best advice I have for you. Check out the code in there. It might get you somewhere on the way. Otherwise, I wouldn't know offhand a good way to do that. In SQL Server 2014, the DAC port seems to be completely random to me. How can I fix the port to a specific one, especially with multiple instances on a machine? I don't believe you can. I don't believe that is a configurable option. I think the remote DAC just shows up. I guess my question would be, does the SQL Server port also always the same? Richie, anything good? See any good questions in there that you want to throw out?
I think they're all great questions.
No, you don't. You're lying.
Viewers do not ask poor questions. They're all wonderful, just like they are. Unlike yourself, Erik.
Unlike me. Unlike me. Okay, well, we're just going to keep going on down the line then. I have a few SQL agent jobs that are disabled, but RAN is scheduled anyway. MSDB sysjob shows these jobs as enabled equals 0. Do the schedules on these jobs need to be disabled as well? If they're maintenance plans, I believe so. Also, sometimes you can chain jobs, and some SQL agent jobs can call other SQL agent jobs, so I would be on the lookout for that as well.
Chain smoking jobs? Is that what you're...
Yes, chain smoking, but we don't know what. Could be anything. Hopefully legal. Fellow Human asks, when migrating from SQL Server 2008 R2 to 2014, should the flag 4199 be enabled globally or not? Well, that trace flag contains a lot of optimizer fixes. Whether you're running into issues where those fixes apply is heavily workload dependent. There's not really a good yes or no answer for that off the bat. The best thing I can tell you to do is set up a 2014 test server, try your queries with the trace flag on and trace flag off. Microsoft is changing a bit how that trace flag works, where it's just going to bucket optimizer fixes up to current on different versions. So 4199 actually contains different sets of fixes between versions. It's just a bucketizer trace flag now for optimizer fixes or changes. It's not like the steady set of fixes and changes that it was prior to 2014. The other thing that you're going to have to take a good careful look at is if the new cardinality estimator is helping or hurting your queries. So make sure that you test both things in conjunction. Make sure you're not getting something weird because of the new cardinality estimator. Make sure you're not getting something weird because of 4199. You have your work cut out for you. That's a that's a tall order of testing, depending on how much code your application generates.
So I haven't messed with the new cardinality estimator because I've been
Hmm.
stuck in Devville.
Hmm.
So have you seen anything in the wild where the new cardinality estimator would take something a good plan and then turn it to utterly garbage?
I haven't seen that just because we've had precious few people, uh, A, using 2014, B, using it in the higher compatibility mode, and C, with anything to compare it to in a prior mode. So the few times that I've seen 2014 acting like 2014, it's just been sort of trying to assess how that's working and you know not really being able to compare it to anything else that happened before for them. So there's stuff that I really like about it. I think it's kind of a good idea that there is some correlation involved. So like in your where clauses, so if you're comparing columns in the same table, so you can assume that there is at least some overlap between values in one and values in the other. They're not just two distinct cardinality estimates. So I think that's cool, but that may not work for everything. Customer ID 1 may have never purchased anything on a certain date, and customer ID 2 may have made all their purchases on a certain date. So it's good to assume that there's some correlation, but maybe not as much as they do.
Right. So kind of our recommendation is try it, but test it
Yeah.
along with everything else.
What's the difference between trying it and testing it?
You could just
Just
try it
curious.
and throw it in production. But what could possibly go wrong?
I don't
Testing it
know.
is like, oh well, we're not going to throw a production. We're going to throw it in a staging environment. We're going to run some stuff up against it
Like jumping out of planes.
without a parachute. What are you, Captain America?
Oh boy. So there's a question here from someone who has auto shrink set to on, and then they turned it off, and their database grew. And stop shrinking your database. That's it. That's the only answer for you. Stop shrinking your database. If it's a
Is
one-time
it
thing, it's a one-time thing, but you're doing it repetitively. You want to keep shrinking it. You want to keep beating that database up. You want to keep beating your whole server up by shrinking your database, and that's not good.
because
I'm
every
not
time
gonna.
you shrink a
I'm not
database,
going.
Paul
I'm
Rando
not going.
kills a kitten.
He does, and like not quickly either. It's like a slow, like days-long thing.
I actually did not know that. I thought it was more like, like, but no,
No,
oh, that's
no,
terrible. Yeah,
no.
don't shrink.
He starts with the
Don't,
tail.
no, no. Poor guys.
Hmm. Ta-da. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Here's one. Here's one that I like. When tuning a long-running query, what are some of the low-hanging fruit to watch out for in the execution plan? Richie, do you have any favorites?
Ooh, a long-running query. I like to see those scans. I like me some scans. I
Mm-hmm.
like me to take a look at, maybe I've got some nested loops with some very large numbers going into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Essentially saying that I've got the wrong join type there. Maybe it should have
Mm-hmm.
been some sort of match or hash join as opposed to that nested loopy thingy.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm gonna take a look at some maybe some functions, some aggregates there. Maybe there's something going down there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some fun things that I don't get to do anymore.
Yeah, ain't no scans in the cloud. So
Oh
stuff that
no,
I
man,
like.
but it's better because we don't have any of that stuff in the cloud.
That's true. I agree. You don't have to deal
Magic.
with it. Everything just works fast. It's so nice.
No
When
SQL.
Yeah, yeah, we have sort of an index on three things. It's mostly there.
We're not joining tables together. We are absolutely not doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no. And we have mostly the same data in all three places, give or
Kind
take.
of.
Give or take.
Eventually, we'll get
Someday,
there.
someday we'll have it there. When I'm tuning long-running queries, the stuff that I like to look out for is spills to disk. So that's a good one because when you spill to disk, you slow yourself way down. So look for hashes or sorts that spill. My big pet peeve is key lookups because key lookups infer that you are doing something horrible many, many times. Sometimes they're fixable if you're not getting too many columns back from the clustered index. Other times you have to kind of balance, do I want this how important is this query? Do I want a super wide index to cover everything so I'm not doing a key lookup?
So
Uh,
what if I don't have a clustered index? What's the lookup there?
It goes to a
Restore.
heap, and then you're in double trouble
Ooh.
because if the heap has forwarded records in it, you can end up doing uh, a key lookup plus a forwarded record search.
But wouldn't it be a RID lookup at that point?
Yes,
I
it would be a
remember
RID lookup.
something from a Brent Ozar class once.
Yes, good for you. From a pre-con long, long ago.
A long time ago,
Other,
somewhere in Atlanta, back in 2012.
let's see, other stuff that I like to look for. Probably lazy spools are a good one. Lazy spools are an interesting thing where SQL attempts to cache a query result in tempdb and maybe reuse it, maybe not. So if you see a table spool and it's rebinding a lot, then that means SQL is just recaching data in tempdb. Stuff like that's a pretty good start. The old missing index request is a good one. Let's see, off the top of my hand, implicit conversion maybe. Scalar
Which is
functions in
implicit
the
conversion, which is really hard to find.
Yeah, it's really tough. There's no warnings about that one anywhere. One thing you might want to try doing is giving things a look through with SP Blitzcache and seeing if it warns you about anything, because we do warn about a lot of this stuff using SP Blitzcache. So if you want to grab like the plan handle or the SQL handle or something, run it through SP Blitzcache and see what you come up with.
Gosh, give me the gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Do we do a fifth element again? Is that what we do?
Yes, all sorts of fifth element. Do you have any?
Comment.
Wow. Okay, here's a weird one. Do you have any policy templates for things like no, you can't have SA for your application? Now, okay, so I'm not sure if you're asking about policy-based management or if you're asking for just like a polite response to why your application can't use SA. So if you follow up on that, I can maybe tell you that A, I've never used policy-based management, or B, if an application is asking for SA, then put it in writing that this application can make all sorts of changes to the server and do anything it wants, and that you cannot be entirely responsible for anything the application does. Because if someone drops a database from the application, if there's some sort of SQL injection-y thing going on where someone does something horrible, it can't be all on your shoes because that was what the application was granted, and you fought against it, and someone said yes anyway. So heads up there. Whoa, that's a long one.
And no, you shouldn't have SA. That's
No, you shouldn't have SA.
no, you shouldn't have SA.
There is a very long question in here about what factors can change the execution plan, especially for compiled and prepared parameterized query. That is a long question. Head on over to dba.stackexchange.com, post it there, post the execution plan on our site. If you go to brentozar.com and under free stuff, I just want to make sure I'm saying the right thing. Under free stuff, there will be a link to paste the plan. You can paste the good and the bad execution plan, and you can post that on dba.stackexchange.com and get a much better answer than me trying to decipher this Bible paragraph of text.
Thou shalt give a bad execution plan.
Yes, and then a nested loops join begat a hash match. Okay.
Nested loops join.
All right. What? What's the best way to downgrade a 2014 database for restoring to a 2008 R2 server without building out a 2014 server? You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing you can really do there is restore the database on a 2014 box. It's not going to be restorable to anything lower than 2014, and then you're going to have to script the data move out or use some other functionality to move the data over to a lower version. You can't directly restore or attach higher version databases to lower version. There's a whole bunch of upgrades and changes that go in when a database is when a database is moved to a newer version or created on a newer version. It expects to be on that version or higher. So no such thing.
Wah, wah.
Okay, here's one. Is shrinking a data file resource expensive and or affect other DBs in a negative way? Yes. It takes a lot of CPU and it takes a lot of disk I/O to shrink a database. I mean, especially depending on how big it is and how big the shrink is, it takes up a lot of resources to do that. So yeah, I wouldn't haul off and just keep shrinking the database. If it's low use and going to be archived and decommissioned anyway, then just stop messing with it. Just leave it alone.
Leave it alone, man.
Let's see. Let's see. There's a question here about sequences over identity columns. Have you used sequences much?
Yes, I've messed with them. Sure.
What are your feelings on them?
Yepper. Well, I mean, if you're using a sequence, it's mainly um, that it's some sort of knowable type thing, right? I wouldn't go to a sequence if I need an auto numbering type system, like most databases have these days. Identity column is exactly what you need. Sequences, if you like, say you want to skip numbers or of something of that, or if you need to loop back, sequence does a looping thing too, and it does it pretty well. So there's a lot of cool things you could do to it, but it's not for like an auto unique ID of a row or something like that. So if you want to do something that's kind of numeric, but you need to do something funky with it, sequence is probably your way to go as opposed to an identity. But if I want a uniquely identify row, identities is what you need to go with.
Hmm. So for sequences, like I think they're pretty cool, especially if you need to hand out unique numbers to a few tables. So like multiple tables can reference a sequence and kind of get
Right.
values from it. So if you need to
That's
do
right.
that, that's kind of nice. Uh, Although the circumstances where you need to do that are probably kind of weird.
Yeah,
Sequences,
I would question the architecture at that point and
mhm,
really ask, well, why do we really need to do this, and why is the structure in this manner?
mhm. Yeah, and the other thing to be careful with sequences is, sort of like when if you go to like bulk insert or insert a bunch of data to an identity column and it fails, you lose all those identity values because SQL's like, oh, I was going to give those out, but then no, I'm not going to give those out. So with sequences, depending on how many you cache, if you reboot or if you lose a transaction, you could also lose a whole bunch of sequence values. So if you're
Yeah.
depending on, you know, ordered numbers, ding, 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 one through, everything unique and in order, then neither one is really the perfect for that either.
Nah. Nah, and you shouldn't be having your clustered index on those anyway. So if that's
Mm-hmm.
the case, if that is indeed the case, then you should probably have that as some sort of alternate key or something.
Mm-hmm. All right. Fellow Human says that they had an outage last night and they were seeing lots of the following error. Timeout occurred while waiting for buffer latch. There's some page information and there's some seconds and it says continuing to wait. I've never seen that error either. I would definitely post that on dba.stackexchange.com. That is, I've never seen that one. I wouldn't have a good answer for you.
Was there a site that went down last night that got a lot of social media play?
I don't know. I don't pay
Hmm,
attention. I don't pay attention to the internet at night.
maybe, maybe.
Let's see here. Is there a tool to check for find compatibility issues before changing compatibility level for a database? Hmm. Uh, you can check the Microsoft data migration to, oh gosh, what's it called? Migration assistant. Hang on. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here.
Welcome to today's episode of Watch Eric Google.
Well, if you had
And
an
this,
answer, I wouldn't have to do this myself.
and in this exciting
Uh,
episode,
oh yes, the upgrade advisor. Yes, there we go. Microsoft provides a tool called the Upgrade Advisor. It also has a couple lists of breaking changes and stuff that a couple websites that list breaking changes between versions that might be helpful to you. Let's see here.
yes, identity also sometimes loses value. Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
I said that. I said that. I
Yes, you
said if
did
you
say
try to
that.
do an insert and it errors out, it can lose value.
Yep, You could lose it.
I don't
But
know.
then
I don't
again,
know why
it's
you're
an
picking
identity
on me.
column, and why should we really care?
No, it is a surrogate key. If you want your data key to be an identity column, you have issues beyond compare. Let's see, going on down the line. Is there a guide list about basic errors which should be set up as alerts on a common server? Yes, if you go to brentozar.com/go/alerts, there is a list of errors that I believe Jeremiah compiled way back when. It covers the high severity errors, which are 16 through 25, which give you all the, which is, the stuff that you should probably be paying attention to. Some of the lower numbered ones do get a bit chatty, like some of the stuff below 19 can be a bit chatty with like failed logins. So you can, make your own choice on whether you want to get all those emails or not. And it also covers some pretty important corruption errors, 823, 824, and 825, which cover some of the hard and soft I/O issues that you have going on. But you have to make sure that your databases are set to have page verification turned on in order, I believe, in order for those to work, because they throw alerts on the checksums there. All right, we do not have any other questions in the queue.
So I wonder if the folks online can figure out what kind of keyboard you're using by your keystrokes when you're Googling. That would be interesting.
No, probably not. It's a very obscure keyboard. Just kidding. It's not very obscure at all.
You got a standard Microsoft.
No,
keyboard.
I have this. I got this Logitech one that doesn't have key wells. It's like you could like dunk it in water if you wanted to clean it, and I like it because the keys are like kind of thick and chunky, and they have like good noise making, but they don't.
Mechanical. You got to go mechanical, man.
Yeah, but
At some point.
But I have a beard and I eat lunch in here, so not happening. Because when I clean out this keyboard that doesn't have wells, it's already not pretty. So
I cleaned out mine this weekend. I mean, I pulled all the keys and vacuumed it and did all that stuff because the amount of cat fur that gets in this office because of cats just sleeping on my desk is crazy. And yes, thick and chunky keys, and those are important. It's almost like dice. You like your thick and chunky dice, thick and chunky keys. They're important.
All right. Shand Glenn is asking for encrypted backups. Can I use a cert created by my security team? That's a rather vague question. I'm not sure where you're going with that, so I don't know.
It's been a while since I've had to do that. I don't want to wager guess. Tara would probably know.
Tara may know. I don't know if usually when encryption comes up, Tara says she doesn't really use that much. Let's see. If we suddenly needed to encrypt something. Yeah, to the DBA.stack exchange. Or to the books online and read the documentation. Or just test it out. Encrypt it back up. Try your certs. I don't know offhand. If we suddenly needed to encrypt some proprietary data on our SQL 2008 and 2014 instances, what would be the easiest way to do that? Well, encryption covers a lot of different stuff. Shand just brought up you can encrypt backups. You can, if you're on Enterprise Edition, you can use TDE to encrypt your data at rest, but that doesn't help your data in flight. And then let's see, that's 2016, so that doesn't count. So those are basically your options aside from buying a third-party tool that encrypts stuff. Richie, how would you encrypt some sudden data?
Like you said, it depends on the requirements that we need. If it just needs to be at rest and everything else is cool, then typically TDE would be, and I have Enterprise, right? Then TDE would be the way to go. It's fairly easy to configure. Don't lose the certs, right? I mean, those type of things. You could actually implement encryption on the app side, of which I've done multiple times. Fairly easy to do. Keeps the encryption out of the server, which means all the CPU cycles happens on an app server, which is probably beneficial since you're paying so much money for your SQL Server licenses. But then again, if you ever want to get data in and out, you've got to go through the app server. So there's definitely pluses and minuses to both.
Yeah. One of the really tough things about encryption is that, especially prior to 2016, TDE can kind of break a few other things, like you can't compress your backups anymore. You can still compress columns and data, but aside from that, you're a little bit out of luck. What do you recommend for data masking? Social security numbers, accounts information. Probably just hashing the columns. It's about what I would do. Like if it's just a column level thing, I would just create a computer, either hash it and have a salt somewhere, or create a computed column that hashes the columns that you're interested in encrypting, and don't let anyone at the root columns.
Right. I mean, the other way you could do it is physical partitioning, right? Create separate tables for the different levels that you want.
Sure. Or views.
Or what?
Views. You can use views so that people only access the views, and the critical columns aren't included in the views.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Before we take off, fellow human said, "Did you answer my question about buffer latch problems?" No, I said to post that on dba.stackexchange.com. I have not seen that error personally, and I wouldn't want to speculate. So I would post that over there to get some more eyeballs on it. And with that, we are at the 45-minute mark, and Richie is going to go continue to run around nude on his lawn yelling "Cubs win" instead of working.
Yes, with only my W flag, because
Yes.
that's the only thing I'm wearing now for the past 7 days.
Only the W flag and your imagination. All right, everyone. See you next week. Thanks for coming.
See ya.